That was the first baby I ever held. So when they plopped her on my chest, I was like so taken back by everything that I didn't even really notice anything else.
No visitors, limited pictures, and in a mask the entire time. Tonight, a local couple describes welcoming their first child in the middle of a pandemic.
It was a cold start to the month of July with some area temperatures only in the 60s and 50s. But coming up, I'm going to show you just how quickly we can turn things around back into the 80s.
As coronavirus cases continue to surge, more states and cities are requiring people to wear a mask. But some people have a medical exemption, so tonight we examine when that's allowed.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here tonight. I'm Regina Ahn.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Mark Hanrahan. It has been 6 days since the statewide mask mandate went into effect, and a question that remains on the viewers' minds is, can you get an exemption to that mask rule? Well, it turns out there are a few exemptions, including one for medical reasons. So what exactly does that exemption mean? Our Casey Decker explains tonight.
Wearing a mask is one of the easiest and most effective ways of preventing the spread of COVID-19. And right now, in most public places, you're required to wear one in Washington. That is, unless you're a child under 5 or you can't wear one for a medical reason. So, what kinds of medical reasons are permissible? Well, the statewide order itself doesn't go into much detail. It says it applies to people with, quote, a medical condition, mental health condition, or disability that prevents wearing a face covering. That basically falls into 2 categories: if the mask could obstruct breathing, or if you can't remove it without assistance. Some KREM viewers shared with us their experience with mask wearing. One has severe asthma, and he said when he wears a mask, it's, quote, harder to breathe, and I start feeling lightheaded. Another with asthma says she feels like she's suffocating. One mom told us about her son with special needs, saying, quote, it's harder for him to keep one on, but we sure try. Many comments were similar. Folks with medical issues telling us even though it's trickier for them than an average person, they still try to wear a mask. One pointed out her breathing condition also means she's more at risk for the virus, saying, I would rather struggle a little now to avoid getting infected than not be able to struggle at all because I'm dead. Others said they've sought alternatives such as face shields or more comfortable masks or just staying home. So what are the consequences if you have a medical condition and don't wear a mask? Well, legally speaking, there aren't any. The exceptions are written into the order itself, and it's pretty clear that police will only be enforcing against the most flagrant violations. But some folks have raised concerns about the cultural effect of being publicly called out for not wearing a mask. The State Department of Health actually weighed in on that. They tweeted, if someone near you isn't wearing a face covering, no need to say anything to them. Some people may have a medical reason for not wearing a face covering. This would also suggest that you don't need a doctor's note or any other sort of formal documentation to prove that you need a medical exception. This public health order, like all the rest, is mostly based on people just doing the right thing whenever they can. There is one area where folks with medical problems could run into some issues, and that's at businesses. Since they're private entities, they aren't required to let you in maskless, as long as they provide some alternatives. That could include online ordering and contactless pickup, or allowing someone to wear a face shield instead of a mask. For more info about this mask mandate and all of its exceptions, text the word masks to 509-448-2000. Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
By the numbers now, still a significant increase in cases, 37 new cases in Spokane County today, but better than the 81 that we saw yesterday. And currently 19 people from Spokane are hospitalized. But these numbers only tell part of the story. The Spokane Regional Health District reporting a total now of 1,416 cases since the pandemic began. But there are likely 10 to 12 people who've had the virus but aren't diagnosed for every positive person. That's according to Providence Healthcare's chief medical officer. That makes for 14,160 to 16,992 people in Spokane County. Many of those people may be asymptomatic.
when we're talking about COVID, that's the challenge. Is there's a huge amount of people that have very minimal symptoms, and we're in the midst of a summer, so there's pollen in the air, seasonal allergies. It's very easy to attribute symptoms of COVID if you're very healthy to having too much pollen in the air and not take appropriate precautions and accidentally infect another person.
Let's be honest, it's the people who are not necessarily in those businesses or restaurants. It's the people who are getting together for backyard barbecues. It's the people who are getting together for large backyard parties, and they're not following the guidance. Pure and simple.
Regina, let's get to our other top story tonight. Across the state line in Idaho, Panhandle Health District reporting 26 new cases of coronavirus today. There have been no new deaths reported, and currently one person is hospitalized.
That's right, Mark, and these new numbers come as hundreds of people continue to wait in those long lines to get tested at the only testing site in North Idaho.
The reason for the extreme lines that we're experiencing is we've seen a significant uptick in the number of people who have had contact with someone who has COVID-19.
Kootenai Health attributing the increase to more social contact, relaxed guidelines, and not enough people wearing face masks. Well, in just a few hours, if you live in Moscow, you will have to start wearing a mask. This comes after the number of coronavirus cases in Leda County doubled over the last week. An employee at least one local restaurant also tested positive there. Idaho does not have a statewide mandate, but local health leaders are urging people to do their part and stay 6 feet apart.
I just didn't want to subject my guests or my employees to this increasing spike, especially at this time.
Tyrell Steakhouse joins the latest list of restaurants temporarily closing in Spokane. This comes after a recent spike in coronavirus cases throughout the county. All right, let's take a check on weather. Now, it was definitely a cold start to the month here in the region, one of the coldest on record, actually. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick out on the weather deck for us. So, Thomas, are things going to warm up just in time for this weekend?
Yeah, that will not be a problem, Regina. If you're looking forward towards this upcoming weekend, the weather not going to be an issue. It's not going to be as cold as it was today. Not going to be worried about any kind of rainfall. But yeah, this was a very cold start to July, of course, relatively speaking. 66, the official high temperature today in Spokane. Not quite record breaking. That record was 54. That'd be the coldest high temperature for July 1st. So not quite like that cold, but 55 in Sandpoint. That was a lot closer to the record. So yeah, definitely one of the coldest starts to July in recent memory for most of us. It's in the 50s as of right now, so a crisp night, if you will. I think our low temperatures will be right around 50 degrees or so. So if you like the cooler weather, go ahead and open up the windows. If not, if you're like Regina, keep them closed because they'll stay a bit more mild inside. Just a few leftover showers, especially over some of our northern mountains for this evening. I think that could last all the way through tomorrow morning, but not a big issue no longer. But a little bit of sunshine late on in the day today, and we had a beautiful sight, some vivid rainbows seen across the area. Big thanks to Tammy for sharing this one on our Facebook page. And if you're heading outside for tomorrow, if you're like me, get that early morning jog when it's still a little cool outside. Looks great for that. What about the afternoon? Same story. Our temperatures should get into the low 70s for tomorrow, and we are on the up and up heading into the weekend. So coming up, a look ahead at just how quickly we can transition from our cold weather today, again, cold relatively speaking, into the 80s later on this week.
All right, bring back the 80s. Looking forward to that, Thomas. Thank you very much. To developing stories tonight, Seattle's Capitol Hill Organized Zone, formerly known as CHOP, is finally dismantled.
You're inside this building. You need to come out with your hands up. You need to do it right now.
The Seattle Police Department took over its previously abandoned East Precinct building. Police arrested at least 44 people and took down tents and barricades. Mayor Jenny Durkin issued a 48-hour executive order for protesters to vacate the area.
It's an immediate, yahoo. Yeah, it's great.
It was a great relief and just a delight. I mean, I was thrilled.
For the first time, we are hearing from some of the search and rescue volunteers who found a missing Idaho man. Yesterday, crews rescued 37-year-old Joel Brown, who went missing a few days ago in the Fernand Saddle area of the Panhandle National Forest. Brown has since been discharged from Kootenai Health. Well done to them. Still ahead, if you think wearing a mask while grocery shopping is annoying, imagine wearing one for several hours while you're delivering your first child. We'll hear from a local couple coming up after the break.